I never thought a night that began with spilled whiskey and broken glass would end up destroying everything I'd spent years holding together. It was past midnight when I got the call, her voice slurred, trembling. "Ethan, can you come get me?" I'd been half asleep, the glow of the baby monitor flickering in the dark. My 4-year-old daughter, Lily, murmured softly in her sleep down the hall. For a few seconds, I thought I was dreaming. My boss, Clara, was the last person I expected to hear from after hours. She was composed, polished, and coldly efficient, the kind of woman who walked through the office like she owned the world, and in many ways, she did. But that night, her voice was nothing like the sharp authority I knew. It was broken, desperate. "Please, Ethan, just, please." I should have said no. A single dad with a toddler at home doesn't leave his house at midnight for anyone, especially not for his boss. But something in her tone made me grab my jacket anyway. By the time I found her, she was sitting outside the Ember Room, a dimly lit bar near the waterfront. Her hair was a mess, her mascara smudged, one heel missing. A group of men nearby laughed, their voices laced with something ugly. I stepped between them and her without thinking. "She's with me," I said. They backed off with smirks, one of them muttering, "Lucky guy." She looked up at me then, eyes glossy, her breath smelling of bourbon. "You came?" "Yeah," I said quietly. "Let's get you home." She stumbled as she stood, clutching my arm like the world was spinning beneath her. In the car, she went from sobbing to laughing in waves. "You ever feel like you're drowning, Ethan?" I didn't answer. Her voice softened. "You're a good man. I know I've been hard on you at work. I see too much of myself in you." I didn't know what that meant, and I didn't ask. When we reached her apartment, she fumbled with her keys, nearly falling. I caught her before she hit the floor, her hand gripping the front of my shirt. For a second, just one, our eyes locked, and something electric passed between us. She whispered, "Don't leave yet." I hesitated, and that's when everything changed. That night blurred into something I can barely remember clearly. Fragments of warmth, the smell of her perfume, the sound of rain tapping against her windows. I told myself it was a moment of weakness, that she wouldn't remember any of it in the morning, that I would forget it, too. But when I walked into work the next day, she didn't pretend to forget. She looked at me across the office like we shared a secret no one else knew. Her lips curved in a faint, knowing smile. And every time she walked by my desk, that same scent, jasmine and smoke, hit me like a wave I couldn't swim through. At first, I thought maybe she wanted to talk about it, maybe to apologize, to clear the air. But instead, she called me into her office. "Close the door," she said. The moment it clicked shut, she turned to face me. "About last night." My pulse quickened. "I don't regret it," she said softly. "Do you?" I didn't answer, because I couldn't. I thought of Lily, of the tiny drawing she'd made that morning of the two of us holding hands, her world as simple as love and safety. I thought of the bills stacked on my kitchen counter, the mortgage I could barely afford. And then I thought of Clara, my boss, my lifeline, and now the biggest mistake of my life. Before I could respond, she stepped closer. "Ethan," she murmured, "what happened doesn't have to complicate things. We can keep this between us." Her hand brushed mine. My heart pounded. "Can we?" I asked quietly. She smiled. "If you want to keep your job, yes." That's when I realized it wasn't just a moment. It was leverage. That night, I saved her from trouble. But the next day, she became mine. Not in love, but in control. And I had no idea that behind her polished smile, there was a secret waiting to ruin me. I spent the entire morning pretending nothing had happened. But every time I looked up from my computer, I caught Clara's eyes lingering on me through the glass wall of her office. That same faint smile. Controlled. Knowing. It wasn't lust I saw there. It was possession. The rest of the team buzzed around. Unaware. She carried herself as if the night before had been erased from existence. But I could feel it in the way she said my name. "Ethan, I need those quarterly projections on my desk in an hour," she said, her tone clipped but laced with something else, something only I could hear. It wasn't just a request. It was a reminder. I worked faster than usual. Not because I feared losing my job, but because I didn't know what would happen if I gave her reason to be angry. When I handed her the folder, she didn't even look up. "Close the door," she murmured again. My heart sank. She didn't thank me, didn't glance at the work. Instead, she slid a file across the desk toward me. "The promotion you applied for, the team lead position in development, it's yours." I froze. I didn't think." "You earned it," she said, cutting me off. "Let's just say I noticed your dedication." Her gaze flickered down briefly, as if referencing the memory of my hands on her arm the night before. My stomach twisted. "I appreciate it. I managed." She leaned back in her chair, eyes tracing my face. "You're a good man, Ethan. I see how hard you work, how much you sacrifice for your daughter." My pulse slowed. She had never mentioned Lily before, never crossed that line. "How do you know about her?" She smiled. "I read the HR files." It wasn't illegal, but it was invasive. I forced a polite nod and stepped back. Her voice stopped me. "Oh, and Ethan, about last night." I froze. She stood, walked around the desk until she was close enough that I could smell her perfume again. "You don't have to worry. Your secret's safe with me." "My secret." I repeated, my throat dry. Her hand brushed my sleeve. "You were the one who drove your drunk boss home. If anyone found out, well, people might talk." I understood the threat, even if she wrapped it in silk. For the rest of the week, I couldn't breathe around her. Every meeting, every glance, every accidental brush of her hand against mine carried weight. She started sending me personal messages late at night. "You awake? Thinking about you today. You're different from the others." At first, I didn't reply. But when she promoted me officially, my silence became dangerous. I replied, "Thank you for believing in me." Her answer came instantly. "Oh, I believe in you, Ethan, more than you know." That was the first red flag. The second came 2 days later, when she called me into her office for a private meeting. The blinds were drawn. The air smelled like coffee in her perfume. She motioned to the chair opposite her, but when I sat, she didn't speak right away. She just looked at me, her expression unreadable. "Tell me something," she said finally. "Do you trust me?" It was such an absurd question from a boss that I almost laughed. But her eyes were sharp, hungry for the answer. "I respect you," I said carefully. "Respect isn't the same as trust," she replied. "You can respect a loaded gun." I didn't know what she meant then. I do now. She rose, walked to the window, and parted the blinds slightly. "You know what it's like to be underestimated, don't you? To be seen as small, replaceable. I see it in your eyes." I said nothing. She turned to me. "You and I, we don't belong to them. We're survivors." Her tone softened. "I need someone I can depend on, Ethan. Someone who won't abandon me." There was an ache in her voice, a kind of loneliness that almost disarmed me. But then I saw something else in her expression, control disguised as vulnerability. "I won't abandon anyone," I said quietly. "But I can't cross lines, Clara." Her smile faltered. For a heartbeat, she looked genuinely wounded. Then it vanished, replaced by that same poise mask. "Of course," she said. "You're dismissed." I stood and left the office, feeling her eyes on me until the door closed. That night, I came home exhausted. Lily ran into my arms, holding up a crayon drawing of a house and 3 stick figures. "Daddy, this one's you, this one's me, and that one's Ms. Wells." I froze. "Why, huh?" "She came to my daycare," Lily said proudly. "She said she's your friend." My stomach dropped. Clara had gone to my daughter's daycare. Without telling me, without reason. I felt my pulse hammer in my neck as I called her number. She answered instantly. "Clara, why did you visit my daughter?" Her tone was calm. "Relax. I just wanted to see how she's doing. I told her I work with her daddy. She's a sweet girl." "You crossed the line." I snapped. "Don't talk to me like that, Ethan." Her voice sharpened. "You think anyone else at this company would tolerate your insubordination? Or your personal history?" I went silent. She had access to my records, the custody battles, the debt, the layoffs. Then she softened again. You don't have to make this difficult. You helped me that night. Let me help you now. I don't need your help. You do, she whispered. You just don't know it yet. The line went dead. I stood there in the kitchen, phone still in hand, staring at Lily's innocent smile as she colored the woman who had just made herself part of our lives. I realized then that whatever I'd thought was a mistake of passion wasn't a mistake at all. It was a trap, carefully set, quietly sprung, and I'd already stepped too far inside. And beneath Clara's calm surface, I could sense something darker moving, something that wanted to own not just my career, but my entire life. The next week felt like walking through invisible tripwires. Clara smiled at me every morning as if nothing had happened, yet her influence seeped into every corner of my life. I didn't notice it at first. It began subtly, almost kindly. She started forwarding me internal emails before they went public. Small perks. Then came the company card for emergency expenses. Then a raise. My name appeared in meetings I hadn't attended. Everyone suddenly treated me like I'd been chosen for something. But I hadn't been chosen. I'd been claimed. At home, things got strange too. Packages began arriving at my door. Toys Lily hadn't asked for. Expensive clothes that I hadn't ordered. No return addresses. Just delivery slips with my name. The first one I opened contained a silver bracelet and a note in delicate handwriting. She'll look adorable in this. You both deserve nice things. See. I threw it away before Lily could see it. Every instinct screamed that I needed distance. But how do you get away from someone who signs your paychecks, controls your hours, and knows every weakness you have? By the end of the month, Clara had found new ways to tighten her hold. She insisted on late-night work sessions in her office, locking the door behind us, the sound of the latch snapping like a warning. You don't have to be afraid of me, she'd say, circling me like a cat. I just need someone I can trust. But trust wasn't what she wanted. It was obedience. She started hinting that other people in the company were jealous of me, that I should be careful who I spoke to. Her words dug into me until I found myself avoiding coworkers, keeping my head down, believing the lies she fed me. That's how isolation works. You don't notice it until the silence becomes your only company. One evening, as I sat at my desk finishing a report, Clara leaned in the doorway. "You're still here," she said softly. "Just finishing up." She walked over and perched on the edge of my desk, too close. Her perfume wrapped around me again. "You work too hard," she murmured. "You should let someone take care of you once in a while." I pushed my chair back, heart racing. "Clara, this isn't appropriate." Her smile vanished. "You think I don't know that?" Her voice trembled slightly, and for a moment I saw the woman from that night, lost, broken. She reached for my hand. "Ethan, I don't have anyone. Not really. I know I scare people. But you saw me when I was at my lowest." "Clara, that night!" "Don't," she whispered. "Don't make it sound like a mistake." Her grip tightened. I could feel her nails press against my skin. "I can't do this," I said. She let go slowly, her expression changing. "Then maybe you shouldn't be here at all." Her tone was sharp again. The boss, not the broken woman. I left the office that night knowing something irreversible had shifted. The next morning, I found an email waiting for me from HR. Subject, investigation notice, employee conduct. My stomach dropped as I read the words. Someone had filed a complaint against me. Accusations of inappropriate behavior. Boundary violations. Unprofessional contact with superior. My hands shook. I stared at the screen, unable to breathe. There was no name attached to the complaint. But I didn't need one. I went straight to Clara's office. She looked up, perfectly calm. "Ethan," she said lightly, "you look pale." "You did this," I said. She arched an eyebrow. "Did what?" "Don't play games. You filed that report." Her lips curved. "Why would I do that?" "To control me," I hissed. "You're trying to." She stood abruptly, closing the distance between us. "Careful, Ethan. Accusing your boss without proof isn't wise." I clenched my fists. You're destroying me. Her voice softened. No, I'm protecting you. This is what happens when people start to notice us. It's better if we make it look professional. I stared at her, disbelief flooding me. You're framing me to save yourself. Her eyes glistened. With guilt or performance, I couldn't tell. You think I wanted this? You think I wanted you to come that night? Her words hit like a blade. That night, you called me, I said quietly. You begged for help. She turned away. And you helped me. Now let me help you. If you just cooperate, I can make this go away. Cooperate. Her gaze locked on mine. Do what I say. Stay close to me. Don't make me your enemy. For the first time, I saw the truth behind her calm. She wasn't just manipulative. She was terrified of losing control, of being exposed. And if she went down, she'd drag me with her. That night, after putting Lily to bed, I sat in the dark living room with my phone in hand, staring at the company email. One wrong move, and my career would be over. One accusation, and I'd lose custody. Then my phone buzzed. A message from Clara. You should come in early tomorrow. We need to talk before the meeting. I'll make this right if you trust me. I didn't reply. I just sat there, listening to the faint hum of the baby monitor, feeling my world closing in. Lily stirred and mumbled softly. I went to her room and knelt beside her bed. She looked so peaceful, her tiny hand clutching a stuffed rabbit. I whispered, I won't let her take this from us. But I had no idea what I could do. Because when someone like Clara decides to ruin you, it's not a fight. It's a slow suffocation. And she was tightening the rope with every passing day. Sleep became impossible. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her, Clara, standing in the rain outside that bar, mascara streaked down her cheeks, whispering please. Now, when I saw her in daylight, dressed in tailored suits and calm authority, I wondered if that night had been real at all, or if it had been the first move in a game I never knew I was playing. The HR investigation dragged on quietly for 2 weeks. I wasn't suspended, but the whispers had started. People who used to joke with me in the break room now avoided eye contact. I could feel the weight of judgment before anyone said a word. Clara played her part perfectly, smiling in public, defending me just enough to appear fair, while privately tightening the noose. And yet, she kept texting me. Are you okay? You shouldn't ignore me. I miss when you used to look at me without fear. Every message was a contradiction, a threat wrapped in tenderness. One evening, I decided to fight back. After Lily fell asleep, I opened my laptop and started digging. I knew Clara's habits, her schedule, her routines. What I didn't know was what she was hiding. Her public life was immaculate. Degrees, awards, articles about her leadership, charity galas, mentorship programs. But beneath the surface, things didn't add up. Old LinkedIn posts led to archive mentions in local papers. She'd worked at 3 companies before ours, each tenure less than 2 years. The press releases always said the same thing, mutual separation due to restructuring. But on employee forums, anonymous posts told another story. Words like toxic, controlling, personal boundary issues. One post caught my eye. If she ever crosses your path, run. She makes you feel like she needs you until you're trapped. Then she destroys you when you try to leave. I sat frozen. This wasn't about me. It was a pattern. I wasn't the first. I scrolled through more threads, finding fragments of stories that mirrored mine. Private relationships turned into blackmail, careers ended overnight, silence bought with severance packages. A chill ran through me as realization sank in. Clara didn't fall apart that night at the bar. She chose me. The next morning, I arrived early, before even the janitors. I slipped into her office with a keycard I borrowed months ago for a late project. The air smelled like her, vanilla and cedar. I tried to ignore the way it made my pulse race. Her desk was immaculate. But when I checked the top drawer, I found a small black notebook. Inside were notes, neat, organized, clinical. Names, dates, private details. I flipped to my own. Ethan Shaw, reliable, empathetic, father. Weakness, guilt, motivator, stability. Approach, emotional dependency. My hand shook. On the next page, I saw other names, some I recognized from the office. One of them was crossed out in red ink. Next to it, transferred quietly. Non-disclosure in place. She'd been keeping dossiers on people. The sound of footsteps in the hall made my heart jump. I shoved the notebook back, straightened everything, and slipped out the side door. That day, Clara was unusually calm. She moved through meetings like nothing was wrong, her voice soft, her gestures precise. But every time her eyes met mine, I saw a flicker of suspicion. She knew. By lunch, she sent me a message. Dinner tonight. My place. No excuses. I didn't answer. At 7:42 p.m., another message came. You disappoint me, Ethan. Then silence. At 8 p.m., my doorbell rang. When I opened it, Clara was standing there, hair damp from the rain, a bottle of wine in hand. Are you insane? I hissed, glancing down the hall. You can't be here. She stepped inside anyway. Relax. I wanted to apologize. For what? Destroying my career or stalking me? Her expression flickered with hurt. You think I'm the villain, don't you? I closed the door, lowering my voice. I know what you're doing. I read the notebook. Her face drained the color. You went through my things, she whispered. I had to. You're ruining me. For a second, her eyes welled with tears, but then, just as quickly, they hardened. You have no idea what I've done for you. Done for me? I barked. You filed false accusations, visited my daughter, and turned my job into a prison. She moved closer, voice trembling. I protected you from HR. I stopped the board from firing you. You don't even see it, do you? They wanted you gone. They always do when someone threatens them. I stared at her, disbelief and fury tangling in my chest. You're lying. She laughed softly. You always think it's lies when someone actually cares. Kay. I spat. You're obsessed. Something in her eyes broke. She stepped back, clutching her arms. You'll regret this, she whispered. You'll see what it feels like when the world turns its back. Then she was gone, slamming the door hard enough to wake Lily. I rushed to my daughter's room, heart pounding, trying to calm her cries. But even as I held her, I knew something irreversible had snapped between me and Clara. Whatever she'd been pretending to feel was gone. Now, it was war. The next morning, my company ID didn't work. The guard at the front desk looked uncomfortable. Sorry, Mr. Shaw. You've been temporarily suspended. HR wants to meet Monday. My stomach turned to ice. I went back to my car, hands trembling on the steering wheel. My phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. You shouldn't have gone through my things. You made me do this. Attached was a single photo, me and Clara at her apartment. That night, her arm around my neck, her face close to mine. A moment that could be twisted into anything. My vision blurred. She'd kept evidence, proof, leverage, and now she was using it. That was the first time I realized the truth. I hadn't just saved her that night. I'd handed her the weapon she would use to destroy me. By the time Monday arrived, the storm had already broken. HR called me in first thing that morning. I walked through the office feeling eyes on me from every direction. Clara's glass-walled office door was shut, blinds drawn. The silence from that space was louder than any whisper. The HR rep, a middle-aged man named Porter, looked like he'd rather be anywhere else. Mr. Shaw, we've received additional materials regarding your case, he said carefully. Materials? I asked. He slid a folder across the table. Inside were printed photos, me and Clara together in her apartment. My arm around her shoulders, her face near mine. Intimate, but not explicit. This looks bad, Porter said softly. You understand how this could be interpreted. I swallowed. It's not what it looks like. She was drunk. I was helping her. He nodded sympathetically, but I could see the corporate caution in his eyes. We'll need to suspend you while we investigate further. My world tilted. You can't. I'm a single parent. I can't afford this. I'm sorry. His voice was gentle, but the decision was final. As I left the building, my phone buzzed again. Another message. You should have trusted me, Ethan. Now everyone will believe me, not you. I wanted to throw the phone through the windshield. Instead, I sat there gripping it until my knuckles turned white. For the first time, I felt something stronger than fear, rage. That night, I called an old friend, Jake, someone I hadn't spoken to in years. He used to work in IT security before moving into freelance forensics. Ethan, sure, he said after I explained everything. You really stepped in it, man. Can you help me or not? He sighed. I can try, but if she's as smart as you say, she'll have everything cleaned up or encrypted. I just need proof. Anything that shows she set me up. Jake agreed to meet that weekend. While waiting, I spent hours replaying every detail, every message, every glance, every subtle threat disguised as affection. She'd always known what she was doing. She'd built this from the moment I stepped into her car that night. But what she didn't know was that I was done playing the victim. On Thursday, while Lily napped, I drove to the office parking lot. I waited until everyone left. Then I entered through the side maintenance door. Jake had provided a temporary override code that would last only 20 minutes. Clara's office was dark. Her computer still glowed faintly under the sleep mode light. I connected a small drive Jake had given me. Plug it in. Let it scan. Don't touch anything, he'd said. I waited, heart hammering, as lines of code flickered on the screen. 5 minutes later, a message appeared. Download complete. 17 files recovered. I ejected the drive and left the building without looking back. Jake met me in a cafe 2 hours later. His expression was unreadable as he set his laptop between us. You weren't exaggerating, he muttered. What did you find? He turned the screen toward me. Emails, recordings, notes. She's been documenting you and others for months. Everything. I leaned in, scanning the messages. Some were between Clara and the HR department, written in a tone of false concern. He's been acting strangely. I think he's struggling emotionally. I'm worried about his daughter. Should we intervene? She's trying to make you look unstable, Jake said. Classic character framing. But here's a kicker. She kept personal voice memos, too. He clicked one. Clara's voice came through, calm and deliberate. Ethan doesn't realize how fragile his position is. I can make him love me or ruin him. Either way, he won't leave. My stomach twisted. Jake continued, and this, he opened another file, is a draft email she never sent. The subject line read, Contingency Plan, Termination Justification. The body detailed a narrative that painted me as an unstable employee who become emotionally attached and threatening. It was detailed, manipulative, and damning. She was building this months before anything happened, I said quietly. Jake nodded. Looks that way. And that means you've got leverage now. But leverage wasn't enough. I wanted justice. The next day, I called HR calm, professional. I told them I wanted to submit evidence of my own. When I arrived, Clara was already there, poised, perfect, every inch a composed executive. She looked at me like she was staring at a ghost who'd forgotten he was dead. Mr. Shaw, Porter said, Ms. Wells has been very cooperative. She's shown a willingness to resolve this privately. Privately? I repeated. You mean quietly? I placed a flash drive on the table. Play it. Clara's expression barely changed, but I saw her jaw tighten. Porter hesitated, then inserted the drive. When the recording of her voice began to play, the air in the room went still. Ethan doesn't realize how fragile his position is. I can make him love me or ruin him. The silence afterward was suffocating. Clara finally spoke. That's taken out of context. Then let's play the rest, I said evenly. She stood abruptly. I don't have to sit here and listen to this. Sit down, Porter said quietly, his voice edged with disbelief. For the first time since this began, I saw fear flash in her eyes. By the end of that week, Clara was placed on indefinite leave. HR started an external investigation. People who had avoided me now looked at me with cautious sympathy. But it didn't feel like victory. I'd seen something in Clara's eyes during that meeting. Not just panic, but hatred. Cold, calculating hatred. This wasn't over. And I was right. 2 nights later, my phone buzzed again. No name, just a message. You think you won? I still have one thing left to take. My chest went cold. I rushed to Lily's room. She was still there, safe, asleep. But a small white envelope sat on her nightstand. Inside, a single photo. Me and Lily, taken from outside our house. She was watching us. The night I found that photo, something in me snapped. I didn't sleep. I sat in the hallway outside Lily's room, my back against the wall, eyes on her door. Every creak of the house made my pulse spike. I'd already checked the locks 3 times, drawn the blinds, turned on the porch light. But that photo kept replaying in my mind, me holding Lily's hand as we left the park. Sunlight behind us, a perfect moment captured by someone who shouldn't have been there. By morning, I was half delirious from exhaustion. I dropped Lily at daycare, then drove straight to the police station. The officer on duty listened patiently, nodding as I showed him the photo and explained everything. The blackmail, the threats, the email evidence, the suspension. But when I mentioned Clara, his expression shifted. Clara Wells, he repeated. The VP at Aegis Corp. Yes, he exhaled, tapping his pen. Mr. Shaw, I can file a report, but this will go through corporate legal channels first. She's high profile. You'll need hard proof she's harassing you personally. A photo on its own won't be enough. My voice rose. She's stalking my daughter. Calm down, sir. Just keep documenting everything. If she contacts you again, let us know. That was it. Another polite dead end. When I got home that night, the silence was different. Too still. There was a faint smell in the house, something floral and unfamiliar. My stomach dropped. I checked every room. Nothing disturbed until I reached the living room. On the couch, right where Lily liked to sit, was a perfume bottle. Clara's brand. I knew it instantly. And beside it, a folded note. You can't protect her from me. She's beautiful, just like you said. My hand shook so violently I nearly dropped it. I called Jake. She's been inside my house. Ethan, listen to me, he said, voice urgent. Pack a bag, take Lily, and leave. Tonight. Where? Anywhere. I'll track her activity. She's slipping. She's obsessed now. I didn't argue. Within an hour, I'd thrown a few essentials into a duffel and woken Lily gently. Daddy, why are we leaving? She murmured, still half asleep. It's just a little trip. Baby, we'll go somewhere safe. Her tiny hand curled around mine, trusting, unaware of the dangers circling us. We checked into a cheap roadside motel 2 towns over. The room smelled like bleach and stale air, but it was anonymous. That's what I needed. I double-locked the door, pushed a chair under the handle, and kept the lights low. While Lily slept on the second bed, I sat by the window, watching headlights streak past. I wasn't the same man I'd been weeks ago, the tired but hopeful single dad who just wanted to do the right thing. Clara had taken that man apart piece by piece, and what remained was someone I barely recognized. Around 2 a.m., my phone vibrated. Unknown number again. Running won't help. You made me need you. The message was followed by a video attachment. I opened it, heart pounding. It was security camera footage from the parking lot of Lily's daycare. The video zoomed in slowly on her playing with another child. Then the camera panned to Clara, standing by her car, watching. My blood ran cold. I called Jake immediately. She's near Lily's daycare. She sent me video proof. He swore under his breath. She's escalating. That means she's losing control. You have to go to the police now. I already did. Then we go higher. The next morning, Jake drove in to meet me. He'd spent the night digging through Clara's email backups and found something big. She's been embezzling funds through fake vendor accounts, he said, flipping open his laptop. Millions. I think you were her backup plan. She framed you to keep HR distracted while she cleaned her tracks. It made horrible sense. She'd built the perfect cover story, a personal scandal to obscure her financial crimes. If I went down, her secret stayed buried. Jake leaned closer. We can take this to the board. If we present the full data trail, she's done. I hesitated. What if she finds out before we get there? He looked at me grimly. Then she'll come for you. We didn't get the chance to act first. That night, after putting Lily to bed in the motel, I stepped outside to call Jake. The sky was moonless, the air heavy with tension. Then, a sound, a soft click, like a camera shutter. I turned. At the edge of the parking lot, half hidden behind a street lamp, stood a figure, a woman, blonde hair glinting faintly under the light. "Clara." I whispered. She didn't move, just stood there, watching. "Leave us alone." I shouted. Still nothing. Then, slowly, she lifted her phone and smiled. I rushed forward, but she turned and vanished into the dark. By the time I reached the spot, she was gone. Only tire marks on the pavement remained. I didn't sleep that night. I sat beside Lily again, listening to her breathe, and realized I couldn't keep running forever. If I wanted this to end, I had to end it my way. Jake's evidence was the key. If I could get it into the hands of someone above the board, someone untouchable, Clara's empire would crumble. The next morning, I drove to Aegis Corp headquarters. The receptionist looked startled when I walked in, unshaven, eyes hollow but determined. "I need to speak with the board chair," I said. "It's about Clara Wells." "I'm sorry, sir, you can't just." "She's stealing millions," I cut in, "and I can prove it." Security was called, but when they saw the data Jake had compiled, they froze. Within minutes, I was escorted upstairs. For 2 hours, I laid everything bare, the embezzlement, the manipulation, the stalking. They verified the evidence on the spot. Faces turned pale. Calls were made. By the time I left, they'd already locked her out of her accounts. It was finally over. Or so I thought. That night, as Lily and I returned to the motel, the room door was ajar. My heart stopped. I pushed it open slowly, praying it was just housekeeping. But on the bed, lying in perfect stillness, was another photograph. This one wasn't of me or Lily. It was of Clara, standing in my kitchen, smiling. The note beneath it read, "You took everything from me. Now I'll take you." The sound of my heartbeat filled the room. The photograph lay on the bed. Clara, standing in my kitchen, smiling like she owned the air I breathed. I checked the door again. No sign of forced entry. I'd locked it. I knew I had. She had a key. Always. She never stopped watching long enough to lose track of me. I tore through the motel drawers, searching for anything else she might have left. In the nightstand, beneath the Bible, I found a second note. "You wanted proof I remember that night. Don't worry, I never forget the ones I love." Her handwriting was delicate, looping, disturbingly calm. I called Jake immediately. "She's been here," I said, voice trembling. He was silent for a moment. "Ethan, you need to leave now. I'm sending you a new location. My friend is a cabin near Lake Pine, off the grid, no cell tower, no cameras." I grabbed our bags, scooped Lily into my arms, and left within minutes. Rain had started again, light at first, then heavier, washing over the windshield as I drove through the sleeping town. The wipers kept up their rhythmic struggle, the world outside blurring into streaks of gray and white. Lily stirred in the back seat. "Daddy, where are we going?" "Someplace quiet. Sweetheart," I said softly, "we'll be safe there." She nodded sleepily, trusting me completely. That pure trust one no longer deserved. Because deep down, I knew the truth. Clara wasn't chasing me for revenge. She was chasing me because I'd become her possession. By the time we reached the cabin, dawn had begun bleeding into the sky, pale and exhausted. Jake's friend had left it stocked, canned food, blankets, and a small generator. It smelled like old wood and rain. I locked every window, pulled the blinds, and collapsed beside Lily as she slept. But sleep didn't come. Every sound outside, a twig snapping, wind brushing the roof, sounded like her. I could almost hear her voice. "You can't hide from me, Ethan. You think anyone will believe you after what you did. You owe me." I buried my face in my hands. The next evening, Jake arrived. His car tires crunched on the gravel outside, and for a moment I felt a wave of relief. He stepped in, soaked and pale. "You were right to leave," he said, shaking rain from his jacket. "Clara's gone completely off the grid. Her phone's dead, her account's frozen, but she withdrew a large amount of cash 2 days ago. Enough to vanish." "Or to haunt," I said quietly. He looked at me grimly. "Exactly." He set up his laptop on the small table and pulled up the security footage from my house. I'd installed a hidden camera weeks ago, paranoid and desperate. He played the clip. At 2:13 a.m., a figure appeared at the back door. Clara. She moved with eerie calm, picking the lock in seconds. She entered, paused, and looked straight at the camera, as if she knew it was there. Then she smiled. Jake froze the frame. "She's sending a message." I nodded slowly. "She wants me to see her." He sighed. "Ethan, this isn't just obsession anymore. It's control. She's making you live inside her narrative." I clenched my fists. "Then I'll end her story." The next night was colder. The lake shimmered under the moonlight, still and haunting. Lily was asleep, Jake working quietly beside the fireplace when my phone vibrated again, even though I'd turned it off hours ago. It wasn't a call. It was a video. No number. No sender. I opened it. The screen showed my driveway back home. Empty. Then, slowly, a car pulled in. Clara stepped out, wearing the same coat from that night at the bar. She walked to my front door, turned the knob, and entered. But then, she wasn't alone. Another figure followed her in. A man. I froze the frame, zoomed in. It was Porter, the HR rep. Jake leaned over my shoulder. "She's not just covering tracks," he said. "She's recruiting." "Recruiting for what?" He frowned. "For your destruction. Or her next setup." I stared at the screen. "Then we bring them both down." Before we could act, headlights flashed outside, blinding through the cabin window. Jake stood, tense. "Did you tell anyone we were here?" "No." The engine cut off. A door slammed. Then, footsteps. Slow, deliberate, crunching on wet gravel. Jake grabbed a flashlight and motioned for me to stay behind him. He opened the door. The light cut through the rain, but the porch was empty. Only a small box sat on the steps. Jake picked it up cautiously, brought it inside, and set it on the table. There was no label, just a white ribbon. He untied it. Inside was a phone. My phone, the one I'd left charging at home. The screen lit up automatically. A new message appeared. "You keep running, but you left something behind." I scrolled down, and my breath caught. A photo. Lily, taken through the cabin window. Jake cursed. "She found us." I grabbed Lily, heart hammering, and turned toward the back door, but a shadow moved outside. A silhouette, slender, familiar. Clara. She was smiling. Jake whispered, "We go out the back. My car's still running. Grab your bag." We slipped out through the kitchen door, moving fast through the trees, rain soaking our clothes. The car was parked halfway down the trail. I could see its faint red taillights through the mist. But before we reached it, a voice cut through the dark. "Ethan." Her voice. Calm. Soft. "Close." I turned slowly. She stood at the edge of the clearing, drenched, hair plastered to her face, eyes glassy with fury and something else. Heartbreak. "I told you," she said. "You can't protect her from me." I held Lily tighter. "You need help, Clara." She laughed, a broken, sharp sound. "Help? You think this is about help? You made me feel alive. You made me believe I could start over. But then you turned me into your mistake." Her voice cracked. "You don't get to leave me." Jake stepped forward, hand raised. "Clara, don't." She pulled something from her coat, a small gun. Jake froze. My pulse roared in my ears. "Clara, stop, please. You don't want to do this." Her eyes flicked between us. For a second, she looked lost, broken. Then her expression hardened. "You already took my life. I'm just taking it back." She raised the gun. For a heartbeat, no one moved. The gun trembled in Clara's hand, rain streaking down her face, mixing with tears. Her hair clung to her cheeks, eyes wide and hollow. She didn't look powerful anymore, She looked empty. "Clara," I said softly, keeping my voice level. "Put it down. You're not this person." Her lips quivered. "You don't know who I am anymore." Jake shifted slowly beside me, his hand barely raised. "Clara, listen." "Don't." She jerked the gun toward him. "You think you can fix him? You think you can save him from me?" Her voice cracked on that last word. "Me." The way she said it, fragile, desperate, made something twist in my chest. This wasn't just revenge. It was grief twisted into something unrecognizable. "Clara," I said again, taking a step forward. "You were lost that night. I was trying to help you. You turned it into something else because you couldn't face yourself." Her expression flickered. Anger, pain, disbelief. "Face myself," she repeated. "You think I don't know what I did? I ruined my career for you, Ethan. I gave you everything." She took another step, and the barrel wavered between us. "I would have destroyed the world for you, and you—" Her voice cracked. "You just walked away." Behind me, Lily whimpered in my arms. That sound, tiny, frightened, seemed to slice through the fog around Clara's eyes. Her gaze shifted. She looked at Lily. For the first time, she seemed to see the child in my arms, not just a symbol of what she'd lost. "She's scared," I whispered. "You're scaring her." Clara's lower lip trembled. The gun lowered a fraction. I never wanted to hurt her. "Then don't," I said. "You still have a choice." For a moment, the rain seemed to hold its breath. Then, a sound behind us. Flashing lights. Voices shouting. Jake had called for help the moment we'd run from the cabin. "Drop the weapon," an officer yelled from the trees. Clara flinched, looking from them to me. "You told them where I'd be." "No," I said quickly. "They came to protect my daughter." Her face crumpled. "They'll destroy me." "You can still stop this. Just, please, put it down." She looked at the gun, almost like she didn't remember holding it. And then, slowly, she let it fall into the wet grass. Officers surged forward, shouting commands. But Clara didn't resist. She just stood there, eyes locked on me, rain running down her face like tears she couldn't control. As they led her away, she spoke one last time, softly, almost tenderly. "You'll think of me every time you hear the rain." Then she was gone. 2 months later. The world had gone quiet again, but not peaceful. I was back at work, reinstated after the investigation cleared me completely. Clara's crimes had unfolded like a map of madness: embezzlement, manipulation, surveillance. The company distanced itself from her as if she'd never existed, but I remembered every detail. Sometimes I still woke up in the middle of the night to the sound of rain on the window and thought I saw her reflection there, watching. Other times I felt pity, because underneath all that control and cruelty had been a woman drowning in her own loneliness. Jake told me she was in psychiatric care now. Stable, cooperative. She confessed everything. He also told me she'd asked to send me something. I didn't want to see it, but I did. Inside the envelope was a small photograph. The night at the bar, me carrying her outside in the rain. And on the back, in the same looping handwriting, "You were the only one who ever saw me as worth saving." That night, after Lily was asleep, I stood by the window, the same sound filling the air, the steady, ceaseless whisper of rain. For the first time, I didn't feel afraid of it, because the storm was over, because I finally understood that sometimes the line between savior and victim isn't drawn by what we do for someone, but by what we allow them to do to us. And though I would always remember her, I knew one thing for certain. I wasn't hers anymore. 2 months had passed since the night by the lake. 2 months of silence, paperwork, and the slow crawl back to normal. The news never used her name directly. A senior executive at Aegis Corp charged in connection with financial misconduct. That was all. No mention of stalking, or manipulation, or the single dad she nearly destroyed. It was easier for everyone that way. Neater. Forgettable. But I couldn't forget. Sometimes when I put Lily to bed, I'd still see that flash of white in the corner of my eye, the reflection of a woman who'd once stood in the rain, whispering that she'd never forget me. I didn't know what I felt anymore. Pity? Hatred? Maybe both. So when Jake called one morning and said, "She asked to see you," I should have said no. But I didn't. The psychiatric facility sat on a quiet hill outside the city. The air smelled like pine and disinfectant. A nurse led me through sterile halls until we reached a small visitation room. A table, 2 chairs, 1 window with reinforced glass. Clara sat there already. She looked different. No makeup, no power suit. Her hair was shorter now, uneven. The calm mask she always wore was gone, replaced by something human, fragile. When she saw me, a faint smile touched her lips. "You came." "I shouldn't have," I said. "Probably not." For a moment, neither of us spoke. The air between us was heavy with all the things that couldn't be undone. Then she leaned forward slightly. "I've been in therapy. They say I'm making progress." "That's good," I said, though my voice didn't sound like mine. She studied me carefully. "Do you still hate me?" I thought about it. "No, not anymore." Her smile wavered. "Then why do you still look at me like I'm dangerous?" "Because I don't know if you're finished." That made her laugh softly, not cruelly, but sadly. "Neither do I." We talked for almost 20 minutes. Mostly small things. Her treatment, her memories of that night. She said she was trying to unravel what part of her had believed any of it was love. "I kept a journal," she said at one point. "Would you like to read it?" I hesitated. "Why?" "Because you desired to understand what really happened." She slid a sealed envelope across the table. "Not now," she said. "After you leave." The nurse returned to escort her out. Just before she stood, Clara looked at me one last time. "You think you survived me," she said quietly, "but you don't realize you were part of it." "What's that supposed to mean?" I asked. She only smiled. "You'll see." That night, after Lily was asleep, I sat at the kitchen table with the envelope. It felt wrong to open it, like reopening a wound that had just begun to scar. But curiosity won. Inside was a notebook. The first pages were therapy notes, messy, disorganized thoughts about guilt and delusion. But deeper in, her words grew sharper, more deliberate. He thinks I ruined him, but he doesn't remember everything. He doesn't remember what he said that night. He doesn't remember that he told me he was lonely too. I froze. She couldn't be right. I remember that night vividly, helping her to her apartment, making sure she was safe, leaving. Except, did I? The next entry sent a chill through me. He kissed me first. He said he couldn't stop thinking about me. He said we could pretend it never happened if I promised to forget. No, that wasn't possible. It was a lie. It had to be. I turned the page. Another entry, written weeks later, when everything was collapsing. He told me I imagined it. Maybe I did. But then why do I still have the video? My hands went numb. I rifled through the rest of the notebook. Near the back was a small flash drive taped to one of the pages. My reflection in the dark window looked like a ghost as I inserted it into my laptop. The file was labeled That Night.mp4. I clicked play. The screen flickered to life. The video was grainy, a dimly lit room. Clara's apartment. She was sitting on the couch, swaying slightly, drunk. I could hear my own voice off camera. "Hey, easy," I said. "Let's get you some water." She laughed softly. "You're sweet, Ethan." Then I stepped into frame. I looked younger somehow. Softer, exhausted. She reached for me. I hesitated, and then, to my horror, leaned in. It wasn't forceful. It wasn't predatory. It was slow, mutual, uncertain. But it happened. I stepped back almost immediately, muttering, "We shouldn't." She whispered, "Then stay anyway." The video cut off there. I sat frozen, unable to breathe. The edges of my memory had always been blurred that night. I blamed it on exhaustion, adrenaline, the guilt of being there at all. But now I realized what Clara had meant when she said I was part of it. It wasn't just a delusion. I had crossed a line too. A moment of weakness I'd buried so deep I convinced myself it never existed. And she'd built everything that followed on that truth. The manipulation, The obsession, the destruction, all of it rooted in that single, fragile, shameful second. Maybe she had lied about everything else. But not that. I deleted the file, heart hammering, and went to check on Lily. She was asleep, breathing softly, untouched by any of it. I stood there a long time, watching her, the only pure thing left in the story that had blurred every boundary between victim and villain. Clara hadn't just broken me. She'd forced me to face the part of myself I'd hidden. Her last words echoed in my head as I turned out the light. You think you survived me, but you were part of it. And maybe, just maybe, she was right. The morning after I watched that video, I didn't go to work. I sat on the porch with a cup of black coffee, staring at the fog drifting over the street. The world looked washed out, colorless, as if even the light was exhausted by everything that had happened. The flash drive sat in my pocket like a stone. I deleted the file, but somehow it didn't feel gone. You can't erase something from memory once it decides to stay. Lily came outside still in her pajamas, hair tangled from sleep. "Daddy, you okay?" she asked, rubbing her eyes. I nodded and forced a smile. "Yeah, just thinking." "About work?" "Something like that." She climbed into my lap, her small arms wrapping around my chest. The warmth of her body grounded me, reminded me that, for all the darkness that had consumed my life recently, there was still light. Maybe that's what made it worse, knowing how easily I could have lost it. Later that day, I drove to the police station, not to file a report, not to accuse or defend anyone, just to tell the truth. Detective Rayburn still handled Clara's case. He looked older than I remembered, his tie loosened, eyes weary. When he saw me, he gave a cautious nod. "Ethan, haven't seen you since the hearing. What brings you here?" "I need to make an amendment to my statement," I said. He frowned. "After all this time?" "Yeah." I remembered something. I told him about the flash drive, the kiss, the moment I had buried. I made it clear it wasn't assault, wasn't manipulation, just a mistake. Mutual, human. He listened in silence, taking notes, his expression unreadable. When I finished, he said quietly, "You realize this changes a lot of things." "I know." "Why now?" "Because I couldn't keep pretending I was innocent." He studied me for a long moment before closing his notebook. "You're not the first person who's made a bad decision and paid for it with their peace. You might be the first to admit it, though." I gave a tired smile. "That's something, I guess." Clara's case faded from the news after that. She remained at the facility, reportedly improving, though I never saw her again. Sometimes I wondered if she still thought about me, or if, in some strange way, she finally found peace by exposing the truth neither of us wanted to face. Maybe that was her last act of redemption. Maybe it was a final manipulation. Either way, it worked. Months passed. Life crept back in quiet, ordinary ways. School runs, grocery lists, the smell of toast in the mornings. One Saturday, while I was cleaning the garage, I found a box of things I'd taken from my old office. Buried inside was an old photo from the company retreat, me, Clara, and a few others laughing by the lakeside. She was standing next to me, her hand on my shoulder. We looked happy, genuine. I stared at it for a long time before tearing it in half. Not out of anger, but because I didn't need it anymore. Some stories don't end with vengeance or forgiveness. Some just stop hurting. And maybe that's enough. That night, after Lily went to bed, I opened my laptop and began to write a letter. Not to anyone, just to myself. I remember everything now. The night at the bar, the kiss, the lies we both told ourselves. I remember the guilt, the fear of being seen as a villain when all I wanted was to do right. I remember her eyes, not when she was cruel, but when she was lost. I think part of me wanted to save her, because I couldn't save myself. Maybe she knew that all along. I stopped there, fingers trembling. Outside, rain began to fall, soft, almost apologetic. The kind of rain that doesn't wash anything away, just makes the world quiet enough to think. For the first time in months, I let myself cry. Not for her, not for me, just for the space between us, the place where love, pity, and ruin had all met and become the same thing. The next morning, the sun broke through the clouds. Lily came running into the kitchen, holding a drawing, a stick figure of her and me under a bright yellow sun, both smiling. "It's us," she said proudly. "We're happy again." I smiled. "Yeah, we are." She didn't know the whole story, and she never would. But as I hung her drawing on the fridge, I realized that maybe the truth didn't need to destroy me. Maybe it only needed to be seen, accepted, before it could let me go. Clara was right about one thing. I was part of it. But that didn't mean I had to stay trapped in it. The past was still there, buried in the shadows. But now, finally, I could walk past it without looking back. The weight of what remains isn't the burden of memory. It's the proof that we survived it. And in the quiet of a Sunday morning, with sunlight spilling across the kitchen floor, I finally believed that was enough.